This week's episode was brought to you by Brendan and listeners like you. If you'd like to help support the show, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will get you access to all our extended episodes, bonus content, a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our cover art, and access to our Discord server. Options are also available, which include an embroidered Barrel Bunnies patch and tarot readings by yours truly. In this episode, we wax philosophic about music, discussing our personal experiences and some of the religious, occult, and spiritual content in the music we love. We talk about Lucifer, the angel of music, racism in rock and roll, the occultism of Jimmy Paige, and the devil's third. We go a step deeper in the second half by exploring the music of the spheres, Kabbalah, and suppressed healing methods of sound. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Guitar player, and he invented a whammy bar that can go both ways, and
Like David Bowie?
David Bowie. But yeah, it's pretty much what allows people to do dive bombs. They're like, wow, like pretty much Eddie Van Halen. He was like the master of using the Floyd Rose. Yeah. It's like,
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we do more than just play the devil's third. Nay, we surround ourselves in a circle of cocaine, salt, and circumambulate the temple using our nose until reality starts sounding like it was transposed through a Wendy Carlos synthesizer before appearing on stage with an eye patch and a humongous dick writhing in our tights, because this week we're discussing the magic of music, David Bowie, and how it all works together to make salutes firm and panties wet. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, the hacking rabbit. I'm joined by the moistened axe wound, Mari-sama.
Moist. Mer.
The Pavarotti of perversion, Dr. Dingus.
I wanted to be the hammer smashed face.
dun, 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 dun.
I'm a poser. I don't even know how that song goes. I'm not a Cannibal Corpse fan.
Jim Carrey is.
Oh, fuck Jim Carrey.
And the moose member inside your mother, Malachor 5.
Mooses.
Guys, when I was in high school, I used to write quote unquote songs. They were just like vulgar poems for this band that I wanted to make called The Claps, named after gonorrhea. And I do remember there was one about fucking a corpse, and then there was another one about let's just get into the episode.
I was driving Uber once, and this guy got in the back of my car, and he's like acting all like, I'm famous, right? I'm like the lead singer of the Hyman Blasters. I was like, cool, man.
Oh,
Well, they played at the bar that I used to work at, actually.
the Hyman Blasters.
They're like, we went through some shit to get that name, and now people just print it everywhere.
Oh, so this is actually like a popular band.
I don't know.
A little bit.
One of those weird, like, in-between bands. I once went to see fucking a concert. Me and my best friend Manto, we went to see Failure touring with Swerve Driver in Houston. And there was this kind of opening act band, somebody to warm them up. They were called, it was the dumbest fucking name for anything I've ever heard. It were called Criminal Hygiene.
That's kind of fun. I like that.
No, the guy went up and was like, hey, yeah, thanks for coming to see the Criminal Hygiene tour, everybody. And then they play like a song that's it's like 5 minutes of just the build up to the first fucking mid-90s alternative rock song you can think of. Just whichever one comes to mind.
I heard Salvia in my head.
Click, click, boom.
That's probably like early 2000s, man.
I was thinking like,
Yeah, maybe.
Savory, the fucking one hand. I want to avoid singing on this episode.
You know what that reminds me of? Well, I know karate, voodoo too, and I'm gonna make myself available to you. I don't need no makeup. I got real scars. I got hair on my chest. I look good without a shirt.
I want to call the police.
The band?
I was about to start singing Synchronicity, but I got excited and forgot the lyrics.
How come the police makes everyone's mom wet?
Their production, man. They were masters of that. They were like,
Yeah, they were like the cooler Rush, especially in the 80s. Like they both had that kind of like rock trio reggae thing going on,
I think they pioneered the gated reverb on the drum set. That's
Yeah, their drums were really unique.
all popular music uses it now as a standard. I'm not sure if it was them or Prince who did it first, but they were pretty much, it was an arms race of audio engineering back then.
My mom claims to have been a drinking buddy of Prince's father, who was a piano player in Minnesota.
Ooh.
Malachor, who did you see today?
I saw Gerald Way.
Gerard.
I don't even remember
Gerard,
his name.
It's Gerard Malachor.
Yeah, well, the dude from My Chemical Romance, he's like dressed in all white, looks all greasy, raggedy guy.
He's dressed in all white?
Yeah, like a fucking Santeria fucking witch or something.
I'd expect that of like Manson.
And fucking Narcosatanicos.
And he's walking with this like girl who looks like Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. He got a bunch of Takis with him, bunch of bags of Takis. I don't know. He looked like a weirdo to me. I don't know if that was his kid or what, but
What kind of day are you having when you just need to buy a bunch of Takis?
he always comes into my store looking like that, the same clothes.
Oh,
every day.
so he always does.
Yeah, and it looks
Okay.
like he hasn't washed his hair since the beginning of the shutdown or something.
So this is like how people in Ireland talk about Bono from U2. Like it's
Dude.
just a normal thing to see him there, and people go, can anybody do an Irish accent? Does anybody even know what one sounds like off the top of their head?
Oh no.
Aye, that
I
I
know.
don't.
Maybe this is a Scottish accent. I don't
All I
know.
know about Irish accents is that they're next to Scotland and they do have one there.
That sounds about right.
And you know, Ireland's a lot
this
better
can't
than
make-
Scotland.
We have a large European fucking audience. This can't make the show.
No,
Yeah.
no. And anyone who's listened to the show long enough knows that I only can talk that way when I'm possessed by Satan.
Dude, I have British, Irish, and Scottish blood. I'm in trouble with everyone.
Well, hey, if you're speaking of being possessed by Satan, hey Luke,
Yes.
tell us why they consider rock and roll being the devil's music.
Yeah.
From what I understand,
Say it like Satan.
I don't feel cool enough.
Damn, I was hoping that would work.
Why is it the devil's music? Rock and roll, right?
The guy who essentially founded the blues is said to have sold his soul at the crossroads to learn to play guitar better. And this is Robert Johnson, of course, and he comes up in The Pick of Destiny, which is where you can hear the story summarized in a fictional parlance, but is more or less what you'd hear anywhere else, is that the devil lives in rock and roll and Robert Johnson is the doorway through which it entered. That it's the devil himself who wrote the blues. And for somebody who grew up watching all of the Scientology propaganda with John Travolta growing up, I got to see Michael, where, you know, that whole 90s trope where you're like an angel walking around and he says, I invented pie, right? I actually really like that idea that, like, if an angel were to incarnate, he could take credit, or she could take credit for the things that they had created in the astral world. Like maybe Michael supposedly had created pie. Well, Lucifer created the blues. That's the general folk
that's cool.
consensus.
Well,
That makes sense to me.
In the notes, I have this down later, but I believe it's Ezekiel 28:13. And I'm only bringing this up because when I was growing up, I was always told that the devil, Lucifer, when he was in heaven, was like the head of the choir, and that like worship was his like best thing. Like he was the best at like a lot of stuff, of like all the arts, I guess.
That
Its
seems
own
to be
disillusion.
popular folk understanding of Lucifer. I've heard that as well my whole life.
He's mostly known for his music, though, his pipes specifically. I don't
Yeah.
know what kind of pipes.
Well, the way they describe it in Ezekiel 28:13 is, thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast cast.
Oh,
And there's many translations. This is from the King James Version.
fascinating.
And I've, looked into this specific passage and what people online have to say. And this is like the only time that the Bible really they're talking about the king of Tyre here in the Bible.
Of course.
There's no way he could have been in the Garden of Eden.
No.
So like the analysis of this is like they're talking about the devil or Satan or Lucifer, and they're describing him like he's like a beautiful instrument, or like a cave. One of the I believe it's pipes is the
A
original
place
translation.
of abundance and riches and
It's
beauty.
like an indention, maybe like inside of an instrument or something to hold like these precious gems. And I guess my summarization of it is that he's described as a tambourine with, instead of metal for like the little metal pieces in a tambourine, it's made out of like the most precious gems and precious metals to make the noise instead.
Oh.
Not garbage metals that just jingle. And that's kind of
That sounds like an
Like,
angel,
the
a big
only-
wheel,
one of the-
right?
Yeah.
It's like some kind of foreign technology.
absolutely. I think that's the most compelling. They don't talk about Lucifer in heaven, what his role was at all. Like everything that that I was told when I grew up, oh, he was like the head of the choir in heaven. It doesn't say that in the Bible.
Okay, but there's a motif amongst angels, I believe specifically the seraphim, who spend all of their time around the throne of God, praising God with their songs and music.
I in the passage before it, they describe him as a cherub, which is
Oh,
almost-
whatever.
But you're right though. Like there is like a whole worshiping like circle around the throne of God. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And they
This
sing
always-
and they praise God with song, and it's the most beautiful music imaginable. And the idea of music itself is gleaned from this dimension or this realm. And so musicians are tapping into this realm. And so within the popular lore, Lucifer was like the best and highest and like director of this whole group. And so when Lucifer
That's
fell,
what I was told.
he maintained his power of music, which is how he seduces people to the dark side.
It's a lot like
Motif-
Lord of the Rings too.
Fucking
main-
take me. Sign me the fuck up.
the fucking just the idea when I was a kid of heaven, like, okay, so there were angels that had this role of like constantly worshiping God with music forever, but in
Yeah.
the version of the Bible that I grew up with and with evangelical Christianity, there's also this notion that in the afterlife you would join them and all of your dead family, whether you want to see them again or not, in an eternal act of worship, like just an eternal fucking church session worshiping God forever. And I could not think of a more fucking hellish, terrible thing.
I
the
heard that
music
too.
Stopped. I just thought about that, like reading the Bible when I was a kid, because I get grounded, and the Bible's kind of like a fucking shitty fantasy book, you know? And fucking thinking about, oh, great, after this, I get to spend my eternity not having sex and listening to 50-year-old gospel music and not fucking whatever I was listening to at the time. I was always a rock fan.
Wow. You know,
Give me the blues.
give me the fucking blues. And you know, my first reaction to this story, because I wasn't raised to believe in the devil, was just that people thought it was impossible for God to be cool. So they had to give that power to the devil.
I find that fucking funny. The first thing I thought of was Bible Man. Or what about those fucking tepid generic Christian metal bands? Hey kids, Slayer is great, but it glorifies the devil. You need to
White
listen
metal.
to Demon Hunter. White metal.
In response to black metal, they made white metal.
Oh yeah.
It's
makes
just like
sense.
black metal, but they're not singing about Satan. They're singing about God instead. Same vocal styles. It's creepy and
You mean like the church burning music? That stuff?
yeah.
Tell us about the church.
Well, the church itself is a musical campaign across the world. Like, you know, I guess like standardized churches, Catholics and Christians and Jews. Music is only for God. Music is only for God. So you do
Yeah,
it.
and they popularize like specific types of music wherever they pop up.
Yeah. So in Norway, when they founded the schools and stuff, I guess because a couple hundred years ago, are they Scandinavian? Is that? I think it's Scandinavian country, Norway and Sweden. I could be wrong.
Scandinavian.
And they didn't have like an education system. So I guess when Christians came and conquered, you know, slaughtered all these people, and with their technology and whatnot, they instilled their religion into their education system. They stopped teaching about Norse mythology. And in the late 90s, there's a generation of kids who were raised by, you know, these modern folk that were traditional, and they didn't like it. They wanted to hear about the ancient stories of Odin and Thor and all that stuff. And these wonderfully constructed churches are built, like ancient churches are built on Viking burial grounds. So
It's like that all over the world.
it is. And this generation, you know, the first, or, you know, the early black metal scene, which is bands like Mayhem and Dark Throne, Emperor, some of those members committed crimes, like hate crimes, and also like church burnings.
And Varg killed Euronymous.
Well, that was because he was trying to like create like a black metal mob. And Varg is pretty much, he says it in books and in interviews, like, oh, I just killed him because I didn't like that shit. And he was trying to just like make me sign pieces of paper that were giving him all the rights to the music.
LARP Mafia.
And, so they burned these churches down, these old fucking ancient churches, because they were like, fuck that culture. And it is like in its nature violent and anti-Christian. But I guess eventually it changes into like an attitude or a sound that's very distorted and ugly, like death metal and
so there's a
metal.
Christian version of it.
I personally think
there's Christian metal, though.
I personally think this kind of black metal revival of Norse paganism is very important to the modern day pagan community. And they did a lot to publicize and popularize modern paganism.
Yeah, they wear corpse paint and they sing the way they sing because when Odin was bored, he'd come down from Valhalla with like the craziest warriors, and they would just rape and pillage the land. And apparently they looked like the way that they paint their face, and they talked like the way they sing in black metal. They try to mimic that.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's a reason why they do.
That's fucking...
You know, for a bunch of people that liken themselves to the Diamond Dogs, I have the slightest sympathy for that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And Dingus is right. It totally like metal helped all this paganism stuff, I guess, get a look, like a modern look. And it's cool. I think there needs to be like a Native American fucking music thing. There are like desert bands that are doing that too.
Desert bands.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of Norway, you know? It's like, you guys call your place hell. We're in hell too over here in the desert.
Yeah.
So it's a different feel, maybe.
That just makes me think of Kaya's. Sorry.
What if you lived in a place that had alligators? That would be like, fucked up.
That's Florida death metal, baby. That's Death, Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Nile, all those fucking bands.
Wait, what about Amos Moses?
I don't know where they're at.
I would like to give a shout out to the album The Left Hand Path by Entombed. It was a major inspiration in me getting interested in the occult, but just because of its name. I was already interested in The Left Hand Path, but you know, there are metal albums named after it, so it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I did that to you.
Music is a gateway to the occult for a lot of people.
It was for me. My story sounds really corny in retrospect, but it has some sentimental value to me because the person I saw the first Tool video with was my best friend and his older brother underneath a pool table where we were watching MTV in the middle of the night, back when it used to actually play music. You had to watch it in the middle of the night for it to play music. But we had never seen a Tool video before. And we saw Schism. And we were all strangely captivated by it. Those two are better musicians than I. And there's a lot to appreciate in terms of technical musicianship, especially in that album, Tool Lateralis. And that was a big bonding point for our friendship. I remember we made blueberry pancakes like at 3 a.m. It was dope.
Fucking awesome.
Well, that whole album, Lateralis, now that you mention it, was also one of the first dives I did into the occult, because there's a lot of like alchemical texts that are well, I don't want to say alchemical texts, but there are references to occult concepts like alchemy. And then of course, you know, there's that whole everybody knows about the fucking Fibonacci sequence in Parabola, which I think is one of the less interesting things on that album.
If I can interrupt,
I've never listened to it in that order.
For a second,
Look.
The drummer is the wizard of the band. He's an Enochian magician.
That makes sense.
His drum set is set up in a sigil formation.
Yeah, okay.
You were to
I
look at it from the top.
I remember it did have a strange appearance. I saw photos with diagrams of it.
Yeah, that's the reason why the band has a lot of this like weird lyrics and stuff. He has a lot to do with it.
Danny Carey is the practicing occultist in the group. I believe that is 100% correct. Like Maynard has like a passing interest in it. He likes things like, this is a common thing in rock bands where they have one of them have an interest in it and is like always has an eye on it. And there's somebody else who's like the practicer. And then there's like the really talented guy who's superstitious of it and won't go fucking near it, you know?
Especially with Enochian. It's John Dee and Edward Calley kind of.
Yeah.
Well, that's real magic. That's not like, oh, I put a feather in my ball cap and I chanted Aleister Crowley. No, that's the real shit. Enochian.
Too bad real magic wasn't enough to make Fear Inoculum a good album.
Oh, I can't.
Dude, I almost forgot its fucking name and confused it with that stupid fucking name scheme it had with the sevens instead of T's. Seven Impest. Okay, yeah, cool. Thanks, Maynard. So
I would love to see them live. I still haven't.
yeah. Oh, guys, I'm going to see King Crimson on Saturday.
No,
Whoa!
Rock on, man. Rock on.
Yeah,
But also, if you haven't watched Tool music videos, like the old ones, go and fucking watch them right now. They're awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty okay.
they are cool. The video for prison rape makes me uncomfortable. Or prison sex makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You just say what the song's actually about. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not the title.
I like Stink
The
Fist.
title is prison. I'm sorry.
Song's about getting fisted. Great.
Well, I've heard that it's not actually, but
There's a double meaning. Turn around and take my hand can mean two different
I'm-
things.
Fingers deep, wrist deep, elbow deep. He says it in 3 different verses. Great.
Hey,
Elbow.
I know this is kind of off topic and going back, but isn't technically War Pigs by Black Sabbath white metal? Listen to the fucking lyrics, man.
nope.
Yes.
Black Sabbath is doom metal, and metal is not specifically defined by its lyrical content.
They're like
Okay, fine, but it's definitely
plastic.
it's Christian in content and in belief.
There's plenty of Christian. There's plenty of metal with Christian content. Fucking the guys from Slayer are Catholics.
Yeah.
You know,
A lot of these
and
people
what-
that do this so-called devil music are definitely not devil worshippers. Like, if you listen to War Pigs, this is like the traditional conspiracy symbolism of like, you got all these Lucifer worshippers that are doing spells to create wars, and Judgment Day is coming. And so when Judgment Day comes, they'll be sorry. You know, that's War Pigs. That's YouTube conspiracy, evangelical propaganda, in my opinion. I couldn't let that go. I've been thinking about that for days.
And I wonder if Black Sabbath got that name from a battle tactic that Pliny the Elder reported like in 300 BC or so. Apparently, elephants are afraid of squealing pigs and rams with horns. And this one king like hung a bunch of squealing pigs outside of his his fortress, while like I think one of the Indian armies was like attacking with elephants, and they just turned around because the pigs.
I'd turn around too.
It's kind of creepy. Yeah, pigs are super effective against elephant type Pokemon.
So while the members of these bands use satanic imagery, they might not really be quote unquote Satanists in their real life, and they oftentimes are not. And if we're going to be real about something, I think the whole devil inside rock and roll thing is related to this phenomena that I completely forgot to mention in the modern art episode, which is that Pablo Picasso and his work was inspired heavily by a display he saw at a museum of African art. And African art is essentially the master at abstract realism, I believe it's called. And this
Juxtaposition,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
And essentially he ended up taking credit for a lot of these forms, and some of this mastery that had been achieved in African art was really just imported and then called surrealism, right? Now, to some extent, I believe this also happened with rock and roll. I think that this mimetic idea of the devil being in rock and roll and Robert Johnson is really just fear of black people, black spirituality, and just outright racism. But the devil's still pretty cool. Once you know that, it's still,
No, I feel like this representation of the devil being associated with rock music became self-fulfilling as rock music ultimately became associated with sexuality.
Ah, that makes sense, because so much of the Christian idea of the devil is this repressed sexuality.
Sex,
Yeah,
drugs,
and then-
and rock and roll, baby, and
You know,
magic.
They
Like,
even made
the whole
Venus the
idea-
fucking devil. Like, come on.
The whole idea of a rock star is like being a celebrity that engages in vice,
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo! Hell yeah.
Or
I
things
think-
of a just not Christian nature.
Yeah, it's about freedom.
That is rock and roll. Is dressing up like a woman and singing about the devil.
Pan.
No.
Yes,
no,
that is rock and roll.
It's not only
Yeah.
that.
What? Have you ever heard fucking Janis Joplin, motherfucker? That is exactly what it is.
Well, Janis
Janis
is a rock and
Joplin
roller.
dressed up as a woman. Dude, you know I might be related to Janis Joplin.
I could believe it.
Yes.
Can we make a baby?
What does that mean, Rabbit? What are you saying about my appearance that makes you believe I was related to Janis Joplin?
I just think it would make people want to suck your dick more. That's all.
It made people want to fuck her less, but I'll take it.
Okay.
But yeah, so I admittedly haven't done the most research into this, but allegedly her last name at some point was Hargrove, and she was born in Port Arthur, Texas, which is kind of like where the rest of the Hargroves are. And she's buried in a family cemetery.
Ooh.
Wow, I did not know this.
Now
Well,
you know.
She's in this 27 club too.
I carry a white lighter, but
Yeah,
you know,
you're still young. I made it past that. I can't be that rock star guy.
you could be like Leonard Cohen. That was
No,
his name, right?
I'm 28 now. I'm not in the club. I'm out.
Oh, yeah, that's lame. I wish you died sooner.
I don't know, but this whole like, oh, we play the devil's music, but we're not really into the devil is a lot like the, we're white, but we stole all these black people's music and it's really our music. And like Led Zeppelin got sued for it. They've lost.
I did.
I take it back. Elvis Presley is the fucking devil.
Yeah, he stole a lot of music too.
Yeah, he did. He was a goddamn thief.
I'm into Black Elvis, personally.
You mean Little Richard? Or y'all know about Little Richard, right?
I mean, Dr. Octagon. I mean,
the gynecologist.
Yeah, Blue Cop. What else?
Gynecologist.
Yeah, that's what he calls himself. And his what's his uncle? Dr. Gerbic, half shark, alligator, half man.
Where the fuck have I heard about this before?
He's a legendary rapper, Kool Keith, man.
Kool Keith.
Oh, okay. Fuck.
He's not famous because he won't go to the orgy. I think the orgy. I don't want to be. I don't want to be politically correct, but Puffy is into that.
What a lame ass, dude. He won't go.
He'll just sing about it instead. Got green doo-doo on your earlobe. I love that lyric.
We stand out like bird shit on a black shoe. That was a fucking stock loop that came with Fruity Loops.
I'm pretty sure that Led Zeppelin can't play shows anymore because all their songs that are hits, they got sued over and the rights belong to other people. And if they played them live, they would have to pay a bunch of money and they'd be probably only making about $100 a show.
Dude, shit like that ruined like one of my favorite bands of all time, The Verve.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
They did who they ripped off?
Bittersweet.
Yep, Rolling Stones.
Yeah, but the thing is, they did, like, by today's standards, they did legally use the loop, and had licensing and permission. But, like, they were even awarded the rights back a couple of years ago.
That's hilarious.
Nice. That's nice for the Rolling Stones because they got their shit already. Like, come on, Rolling Stones stole from people and they made you a lot of money. Like, just let it happen.
It was some bullshit too because, like, the Verve, like the guitarist for the Verve is like a fucking genius.
They're from Manchester. Yeah, they're from Manchester, UK, where all the rave shit happens.
Yeah, they were known for taking like extraordinary amounts of ecstasy.
UK has a lot of the UK. It's not just England. It's like Scotland and all those islands.
Yeah, and fucking Wales too. I don't know anybody that thinks of Wales more than once, like every year or two. It would suck to be Welsh.
Yeah, and the members.
I'm sorry. Go on.
The members of Led Zeppelin were heavily into the occult of their area.
Yeah, they all had sigils, and actually, that particular area of the UK has a unique occult history.
Yeah, Crowley specifically was of high interest to Jimmy Paige.
So Jimmy Page was the Danny Carey of Led Zeppelin. He was the one who wanted to stand in a circle and chant the angel names and put the sigil in the triangle and, say the barbarous names and surf the astral with his penis and all this nonsense, right? He was the one. He was the doer.
In Scotland, if you don't know, Aleister Crowley had a house off the shores of Lake Loch Ness, and he called it Boleskine House. And he did the Albermelin ritual there, or he didn't finish it, and it got burned down.
No, he didn't finish it there, but he definitely started it a few times there.
Yeah, and I guess you're not supposed to do that, right?
No.
You
He did it all wrong.
You gotta satisfy the soul of these spirits. And
That was one of the primary quests of the whole rabbit, was to figure out what exactly happened with Crowley and the Abramelin. So if you go back and listen to our Aleister Crowley episodes, we go into some detail about it, because we were not sure if he completed the ritual there, and he did not. He completed his Abramelin in the astral while he was traveling. But
yeah, because
still,
he wanted to go fuck and do drugs and travel the world and
he
get
still
spices.
did the ritual work. He still woke up and did the chanting in his head, you know?
I get that's fine, I guess, right? You can do that. He would know. But the land where he built this house, I guess at the time, or like, you know, it was pretty opulent, gotta be. And it already had like a paranormal activity reputation. That's why he chose it.
It was perfect for the Abramelin. Perfect.
Apparently.
Did he make plenty of sequels? Was each lower quality than the last, but he got his money's worth?
I think this is the most famous. There's like a house in Italy that's still not occupied because creepy
Oh,
shit
the
happened
Abbey
there.
of Thelema.
Yep, it was like when he was younger, and yeah, it's crazy inside. Like brave people have gone in there and like tagged it up with pentagrams and like everything.
That took me some years to learn what that Manson lyric was. We gotta take it to the Abbey of Thelema. Like, what? What are you talking about, Manson? He knows about it.
He loses Boleskine House eventually. You know, he dies, and eventually, it's up for rent. And Kenneth Anger, the occultist, filmmaker, crazy artist guy, he made a bunch of homoerotic movies back in his time. A lot of like muscly men in leather.
Would you rather somebody more qualified describe this?
I don't see anything wrong with this.
I thought he was just uncomfortable describing the content of the tapes.
No, it's because it's not the focus of what I'm trying to get to. He was just like a filmmaker who was like, dude, this is fucking art. Like, don't fuck with me. He was very serious, and he even says it. His films are spells. He's not wrong. Music is just the same thing. It's just audio spells.
It's like Boards of Canada says music is magic, music is math.
Yeah, absolutely.
They also say math is magic.
And he eventually rents out Boleskine House. And it was already like burned down and disarray, but he lived like in the basement or some shit. And I guess sometime before this, he was at a auction house bidding on Crowley's manuscripts, and Jimmy Paige was there as well bidding.
Oh, and that's how they linked up.
That's how they linked up. And when Jimmy Paige found out that Kenneth Anger was renting out Boleskine House, he bought it. It was for sale, and he bought it. And
Kenneth Anger was like, yes, we have the fucking house.
Pretty much, and we can do all the magic we want. And in the late 60s, he was working on his film Lucifer Rising. And if you've seen it, it's an amazing movie. It's the beginning and the end of the world, as he described. And he worked on it for 7 fucking years. And he had only, and I mean, this is not impressive to me. This is not impressive to me at all. He only had 40 minutes of footage after 7 years.
What? Oh, yeah. How did that happen? How did that happen?
He was an occultist, man. You know, you have to fucking do your work, and I guess, but
I believe Scarlet Woman, Marjorie Cameron makes an appearance.
Yep. I don't know if it's this movie. You're talking about Crowley's wife?
No, Jack Parsons.
Oh, Jack Parsons' wife. Right. It might be this movie. I don't remember. See, like I should have put that in the notes.
The woman who showed up out of nowhere after they conjured Babylon to physical appearance. She just shows up at L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons' house like, I'm here, bitch. And they're like, will you take off your panties while we chant? And she's like, fuck yeah, I will. I don't know if she's in this movie, but she's in Kenneth Anger films. I thought she was in Lucifer Rising. Now, I'll be honest.
You just described some really trippy shit.
Well, yeah, Kenneth Anger. We're not even at the juice of this story. Kenneth Anger was an occultist, OTO probably back then.
I don't know enough about the OTO or what Lucifer Rising's intentions were to weigh in on this, because when I was a student of Jason Louve's, this came up once upon a time, and Jason got kind of upset, like he does when he runs into something that makes him upset. And he seemed, I kind of picked his brain for a minute because I didn't understand why he didn't like Kenneth Anger or why he wasn't into Lucifer Rising. And from what I could suss out, he made it sound like it had something to do with the end of the hippie free love movement. He said it was a spell to stop that whole thing. And if I I don't know. I mean, he knows much more than I do about this sort of thing, but it's to my chagrin that I don't have that info hot and ready. It is considered like most people think of it as the opposite, actually. that it was meant to create a new Luciferic era where
That makes sense.
Look, I mean, I'm no expert, but honestly, when people say things like specifically like it was a spell to end an era, the era was gonna end anyways. I feel like they just don't.
They're just
can't
paying
handle-
attention.
Can't handle change.
to play devil's advocate, this is sort of what occultism does. Is it attempts to change paradigms, and that's sort of what it's for, in my opinion. Is this for as a social limb, you could say, as a part of the social body? Its job is to help change paradigms. By going to Bullskine House, he did have some power on the pulse, in my opinion.
That's the place to do it. That's the place to do it, man. Like this is an amazing story. He's sitting on 7 years of work. That's the whole of 40 minutes of footage. And Jimmy Page just buys the place. And Jimmy Page is probably heavily interested in all this stuff, and they're talking, and Anger's just like, you know what? How about you do the soundtrack? I hope he communicated to him that it was 40 minutes long, because eventually Jimmy Page only produces 40 minutes. And it's great music. Like, you can find it on YouTube. It's amazing. It's trippy. It's not like Led Zeppelin at all. Well, I guess it is, but it's different. It's like a new thing. And Anger's just like so pissed off that he's like, here's his quote. In an interview years later, Anger says, "So Jimmy Page is some music instead. He's a miser, which is a horrible thing. He wouldn't even pay for lunch. So I said, isn't it preposterous that you're so cheap?" And that, of course, insulted him. He was on heroin all the time. And this is true. "I hate all those druggies because their eyes get glazed and what they say is meaningless because they don't follow through." I said, "Okay, Jimmy, I need exactly 40 minutes. But he only gave me 20. I said, what am I supposed to do? Play it twice? I need 40 minutes. I need a climax. Like the film is the end and beginning of the world. You got to give me the big music." It sounds like he wants some sex, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Give me the dick, Page. Just give it
That'd
to
be
me on
right up his-
camera.
And
I don't know. With a name like Kenneth Anger, actually. Hey, Mari.
Uh-huh.
Hey, okay. Kenneth Anger, is that the name of a top or a bottom?
Top.
I disagree, but okay, we'll take it.
I don't know who that is, so.
He seems like he's the person who's always a top outside of the bedroom, so he might be a bottom in the bedroom. You know what I mean?
mean a
ooh, I don't know anything
Yeah.
about these cultures.
I don't know either. I'm just saying things.
You mean a
yeah.
Switch, then?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Nintendo
too
Switch.
easy.
If I wasn't straight, I would just be a Switch. Like, what the fuck is this top bottom bullshit? Like, come on.
I mean, you don't have to be gay to have that.
No.
Like, it works for
That's
straight
true.
people. It works for straight people, too.
You're right. Totally right.
Like, you don't have to be gay to do BDSM.
Gay people are people, and I love them.
Mhm.
Thanks for letting me know.
I love you too, Dingus.
I'm a person.
Well, yeah, and it seems like people forget. Anyway,
I'm a creature.
I'm a yokai.
ooh.
I'm a fiction.
So
Just
Anger gets mad and he insults Jimmy Page.
Anger gets
And-
angry.
Anger
Yeah.
gets mad.
That never happens.
Jimmy Page's girlfriend Charlotte at the time did not like it, so she kicks Kenneth Anger out of the house. And according to Anger, this is his quote again. He says, he's a multimillionaire. He's a Charlotte. He and Charlotte, that horrible vampire girl. They had so many servants, yet they could never offer me a cup of tea or sandwich, which is such a mistake on their part because I put the curse of King Midas on them. If you're greedy and just amass gold, you'll get an illness. So I turn her and Jimmy Page into statues of gold because they've both lost their minds. He can't write songs anymore.
Rest in peace, I guess. I don't know. I never cared for his solo stuff much in the first place. But
No, Jimmy Page isn't dead.
yeah, I know. I just didn't know what else to say.
Right.
He might as well be.
They
Not like
did,
any-
like, the band did have some fucking, it might seem like a fucking curse on them. Like, they ended up getting sued. John
Well-
Bonham died.
When they wrote their own music, nobody liked it.
Exactly. And
It's like those old folk songs are really fucking good or something.
I'd like to say his curse worked.
Hey,
Magic is real.
look, Physical Graffiti is a fucking fantastic record, no matter what anyone tells you.
I like Achilles' Last Stand on Presence. That's a great fucking song.
But speaking of magic and music and the intersection of the two, I just want to read y'all something, kind of changing the topic, but something that I initially wrote for the introduction of this episode. But I find it interesting that when the internet first caught on, it was necessary that you had a phone and a phone line because back in that time, devices used the actual dial tones emitted from like a phone's buttons to connect with and communicate with one another. You know, to verify that it's connected to the right device. Like there's a little exchange of these beeps and boops, and that's the dial-up tone. And I find that interesting because the human equivalent of that, being music, you can carry information over sound in that way too, except it gets more abstract. You know, music is like a more interpretive form of that kind of technological Morse code. You can transmit emotions through music, or even deeper experiences without lyrics, just through the way that you would choose to write your song and play it.
Absolutely. The 56K dial-up modem to me always sounded like birds chirping, which in some sense it's doing a similar thing, isn't it?
Music, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so basically,
what birds are saying at the top of their lungs is, "Hey, I'm horny. I'm trying to mate, and get the fuck away from my house." That's what their songs are saying.
want some fuck? Want some fuck?
Come
Want
here,
some
fuck me.
Some
hey,
fuck?
hey, girl.
Some
They're
fuck?
hollering.
Some
Hey, this just reminds me of something like totally unrelated that I find like disturbing.
Smash.
Let me smash.
Sounds so beautiful in the human ear, though.
But
I want to say something that'll bring it around to what Dingus is going to bring up. I heard once upon a time, long ago on TV, and I will never remember the source, is that some people thought of art as the same way as a big tube, and that they thought they gave an example of a frog in nature, which its ability to attract a mate was on how loud it could chirp, essentially, much like we were talking about with the birds. And this one frog is able to attract more mates by going into a human-made sewer tube and chirping, which amplifies the sound of its chirp. And this program I was watching was theorizing that this is what humans were doing with artwork. And
Holy
so
shit.
it's actually like all of our artwork is like, you want some fuck? You want some fuck? And you're trying to amplify like your own signal in a way that is like somewhat artificial, in a way to like add value to like peacock, to get some, basically to puff yourself up. And that's really all it is. But I thought that was interesting that it happens within a pipe, and so much of there really is a magical power to running sound through like a medium of some
an amplifier.
Yeah.
So-
Because then more people are exposed to the perturbation that you make.
Ooh.
So Lou, I appreciate that you had the faith in me to go ahead with that little tidbit about the frogs and the sewer pipes, and that you believe that whatever I had to say would be associated with that. But actually, I was just gonna bring up how there's an NPC in Fallout New Vegas, like around Freeside, and it's one of the hookers for a casino, and she goes, fucking bored, hungry, horny, come to the fucking casino today. And the voice actor is 13.
What?
Oh my God.
It makes me very uncomfortable.
Oh, that's
Now,
spooky.
there is a theory that I think holds some water, that this actually was just some kind of stupid casting error, because they recorded like 60,000 lines of dialogue in 10 months, and there are lots of fucked up recordings in New Vegas just because they had to cram all this audio in. But yeah, frogs and pipes, 13-year-old voice actor for a prostitute. God damn.
I want to say something inappropriate, but from what I know of that old reggae song, we should just talk about pipe organs, because that's not the right way.
Sorry.
You ever notice how a larynx looks kind of like a vagina?
I do now.
Kind of, yeah. It looks like a cup, like a chalice.
Okay, I know somebody who was like making a lot of money in the 90s as an identity thief, and he told me back in the day he would wiretap people's phones, and like sometimes you put like sensitive numbers through your phone by pressing numbers, right?
Uh-huh.
And they would make certain tones, and he'd record that, and eventually he memorized them, but the sound that each number makes to get the important information that was like the final piece to steal their identity, sometimes like social security numbers.
In the late 90s, there was a hacker who went by the name of Captain Crunch. He was called this because his secret, like his major technique that brought him so much success, was that he would take a fucking slide whistle that was a free prize in a box of Captain Crunch, and blow it into the telephone, which created the perfect tone to grant him access to like any machine he wanted.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Follow the right rabbit and you'll get a bunch of Captain Crunch.
Wow.
How does this? I don't believe in pinnacles. I don't believe I'll try. I do believe in Captain Crunch, for I am the Frizzle Fry. Don't include that. I'm sorry. I just want to talk about Frizzle Fry and Primus.
Seas of cheese.
I only ever listen to Frizzle Fry. I got to tell you the truth.
Seas of Cheese is the one.
I hear people say sailing the seas of cheese is good.
Sailing the cheese of key.
If we still lived in the goddamn Catholic world, it never would have happened. Jesus. Sorry.
You were saying Luke was saying something about like all the sound like being like a pipe or something, and it kind of reminded me of this cool like artistic idea I have is like since the Big Bang, sound has just been happening, and it might look like what you're looking at when you're editing sound. It's like a waveform of the audio that you're recording. Just imagine since the Big Bang, that's like, second zero, and when everything dies, that song is ended, but it's like billions of years of existence, right? And I tell this to my bandmates, like, we're trying to, it's like the frog in the sewer. We're trying to be the frog in the sewer, that our sound pierces through some frequencies of the whole of the universe, like the sound of the universe. It's a playback that God's like listening to in his mixing room with his headphones on, and he's just looking at it and hearing it. So your band,
and God listens to pop punk because pop punk is for kings.
It's all in there, planets smashing together and fucking death, and pop punk bands are there too.
Somebody has to find me that copy pasta about pop punk bands being for kings and emo bands. Like, you know which one I'm talking about.
I've seen it, yeah.
So I put a lot of effort I don't want to say a lot of effort, but I tried to write out this pretty section of the notes and then couldn't think of a good place to cram it in during the conversation. But I do want to bring up one of the more interesting powers of music, which is to influence, persuade, and control others. So when you enjoy music, when you listen to music, there's a certain amount of vulnerability involved in that process,
Also vibrates you physically.
It does.
It affects you physically.
It also your heart rate is known to match up to the tempo of music that you're listening to. Like, this is just an automatic physiological response. And for most of human history, there was only one instrument that could truly reach the levels of volume needed to affect somebody on a full body basis. If you've ever gone to a concert, one that comes to mind is the Failure concert that I mentioned earlier. And they have like that big ass heavy bass sound, and you can feel that shit rumble in your chest, and you see it shake the fog in the air back and forth. That may be mostly a modern occurrence, but for a medieval serf, you could experience that, or really for an ancient Grecian, or, basically anybody from 3rd century BC onward. If you went somewhere that had a pipe organ. So as any kind of underclassman in this time, which is most of society, going to see a pipe organ was a real fucking spectacle. You would never hear anything with quite that quality, that texture, or that volume in nature. And not to mention the size of the pipe organ itself, and the size of a building that you'd have to go to that would even host one, Pipe organs were often built into the earth itself, and the architecture around it was made to accommodate them. Buildings were sized appropriately that you could clearly hear the pipe organ without any kind of electronic amplification back during that time. And the pipe organ itself was dependent upon like a natural water table. They were often built near springs and places with like a shallow water table. It's just, not much space between the ground and the underground aquifer is what I'm saying. They use this water to move air pressure, to change the air pressure and move air through the pipes, thus creating the sound. It was like, it's something that I kind of equate to like a steam engine from that time, some really impressive shit. And you have to imagine that once, like as a medieval serf, going to church and then having them hype you up about the Crusades so you can reclaim the Holy Land in some far-flung Asian country, leaves a much larger impression when they do it with a pipe organ.
Yeah, and the fact that they make it's like a machine. It's more of an ergonomical, interactive sculpture more than it is an instrument, right?
Yeah, like
and it's woven into the environment in such a way. And then I forget to say that like probably the lowest note on it, it's longer than like more than the height of 3 people on average. And that means that to accommodate it, you need something that's at least 3 stories tall, which is usually how the
Wait, do you mean
organs,
like wider than 3 people, like diameter?
no,
Tall,
like taller.
tall.
Okay.
Like they're tall, they're immensely tall. So the buildings that contain them, if they don't go outside of the freaking building, then the pipes are like the chapel itself has to be at least 3 stories tall to accommodate.
Cathedrals, big
And
cathedrals.
that's where and that's what I was about to say is the structure of cathedrals and even regular churches built during this time period were built around the acoustics of the instruments and the singers in the choir. Because
Sometimes
the organ
they
was
cut the choir boys' balls off so their voice would.
Oh
so
man,
they could stay sopranos forever. Yes, I know.
forgot to
But
put
that's
that in the
because they
notes.
didn't let women in the
You
choir
might
back
know,
then.
but do they know?
So around the center of the, like where the altar is, behind it would be the main choir, and then some of the main choir, and then the organ is placed in the back of the church. So it actually like resonates outward into the audience, and it's located behind everybody. And then there's these like little side alcoves that you had on either side. And then you have the sopranos and the altos and the people that sang higher in the choir. So you have all the high instruments and notes and the singers in the front and all of the bass people in the back. And then you have the organ behind them. And then you have, of course, the people in the front singing hymns. So it is like Malachor was about to say before, this is basically an ancient rave. Like it's a rave building.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this too. I'm pretty sure back then the average person would not even equate the loud volume of the organ to the experience of shaking, and they just might think they were catching the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
probably what it was designed to do. Because like you were saying, Dingus, like if music moves you in a powerful way, like I've been to concerts, I love classical music and a lot of jazz music, but I love it that moment when you hear a choir of people singing and you get goosebumps just all over your body and that shiver go up your spine.
Music goosebumps is like my favorite fucking thing.
And it's kind of like getting, you know how you get deja vu every once in a while, but it's not common. It's kind of like that. Like sometimes music will do that to me, and that's really one thing I love about it. But it really does affect you, not only psychological but physically. Like there's nothing quite like being at a concert and being blasted by the speaker system. You know, it's so much different than just playing a speaker loud in your house.
With a bunch of people who are feeling the same, like your guts are rumbling, your heart is being moved by like the bass, and like your ears hurt because the treble, and
some asshole next to you just spilled your first gulp of beer directly into your mouth. That happened to me at the Parliament Funkadelic concert.
I tell myself I love it. That's why I go to shows. I go to shows to get other people's sweat in my mouth and get beer spilled on me, my shoe stepped on. Like, you have to learn to love that shit. And
I had really bad social anxiety for like ever growing up, and like when I became an adult, I went to my first like dance or public rave, and that changed my life. Like it opened me up. It fixed my distrust of, I mean, I still don't trust people, but I can have a good time now and not have panic symptoms by being in a crowd anymore. Like, it's such a relief.
It's really cool at a rave, like specifically, like I guess this is like a modern thing especially, but I guess you can feel it at church. It's just like sometimes you're just like so high and everybody's feeling the same way for a few moments, and then everybody goes back into their like drug trip. But for those moments you feel that connection.
Yeah, it's very healing and it's very nourishing.
That connection honestly always makes me uncomfortable.
I love it.
I mean, it sometimes feels weird, but
it feels
happens.
Uncomfortable, like being on the edge of a cliff. It's exhilarating. It's exhilarating, dude.
There can be only one. I'm sorry, I should say that.
But yeah, it does affect you on multiple levels, and that's why it was built.
And that's why church is the shit. That's why church is the shit. If it's a bunch of fucking Thalamites, we're like just opening up the morning, doing this cool fucking rock song, like Occult music, and then you're just partying all day with the barbecue, and then it's just a big orgy. Like, doesn't that just sound fun? Doesn't that just sound great?
The only sermons that really moved me were the ones where they described what would happen to you in hell. I thought they were cool.
That's why you gotta sin. You gotta sin to get there, baby.
Oh, I
No,
just
you don't have to sin if you're evangelical. You just have
No.
to exist.
You want in on hell, you got to be a bad guy.
Look,
No,
so
no, you
before,
don't.
before we end the episode, I just want to discuss one more thing, though, because it does relate back to the pipe organ. So for many centuries, the pipe organ was also the standard for how music was tuned and written, because you could equip, just like the piano, you could equip any number of octaves onto a pipe organ as long as it had the pipes installed.
We'll get into tuning in the extended episode.
Oh, so we're not going to talk about the church banning minor key right
No,
now.
we could.
Okay. Yeah, so the church banned minor key. This was honestly like why when Black Sabbath came out, they were so cutting edge. It's because they were utilizing dissonance. For many centuries, European music specifically did not feature any kind of dissonance or any kind of like flat or sharp notes. They were all very pleasing
whole
kind of
steps.
whole step notes. Yeah, Malachor, give us some music theory. Why is music that only occurs in major key boring?
It's not boring. It just sounds good.
It sounds-
and it moves people. It moves people more than
Okay.
dissonant music. You
It's
want
kind of like a
I don't-
triangle,
resolution.
right? Like
You
it's like
want
a perfect.
resolution.
It's
It's
like a
pop.
perfect shape.
well,
But don't you think there would be something kind of distasteful about only having access to music that is in the major key?
first of all, I think
Sure.
music is much more comfortable in a square shape rather than a triangle. But that's like saying the 4 count. You know, when you hear music on the radio, it's always like 1, 2, 3, 4, or some factor of 4, and it's kind of arguable that you can break all of music down into a factor of 4, regardless of what you're doing.
Right.
And I guess that's just because of the way that the bar system is set up and when you're notating the music. And maybe there's some magic in that, but I'm not there yet in my musical skill.
Bro, I
to tell you
love
about it.
time
Well-
signatures and stuff. It's all mathematics and fractions.
And kind of, but like in pop music, I guess in pop music, everybody likes the 4. They
So
don't
Well, yeah.
I just
because
think
it's
that-
easy.
pop
And that's-
music does play a particular role when you're trying to convince people to feel a certain way, or when you're the church censoring the minor key kind of
Yeah.
locks experiences away from people
I would
behind these
say-
missing notes.
It dumbs it down. I would say that it alters the experience of the music in a way that makes it gentle and unoffensive.
It's hard to portray unpleasantness in that fashion.
Well, yeah, but you're not supposed to. That's the whole point of respecting that key.
And my entire point is that that sucks.
like
It
you
does
can,
suck.
you
but
can
we
kind
need
of
to-
say that the minor stuff is just the same as the the major stuff.
Well, if it's used properly, like here's an example. Greensleeves was a song written by a man. It was a hymn for a church, and it was controversial because it does utilize
And-
minor scales, and it also does dissonance. It uses dissonance in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
and that was-
and jazz was something
Yeah.
that was using time signatures. They were playing in minors and majors and mixing it up.
syncopation, though.
But the way that they like evolved the style was like, so for example, the Dave Brubeck Quartet have the hit song, the famous song, it's called Take 5.
I love Take 5.
It's because it's in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're not counting in 4s,
Yeah, it's awesome.
and there's no way you can count that in a 4 setup.
I
So-
like 6/8, which is basically like a waltz. So a lot of times it's like a
Yeah,
faster
a waltz is 3. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's polka music.
and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6/8. So it's double time.
Yeah, it's great. It's like double that first one I said.
And then jazz also utilize syncopation, which is where you kind of lean on a beat, and it really makes it gives swagger to the music. So it gives these different effects to the music, and there's no way to really notate it except to write
It is the way it is. It's just
Yeah.
like it's played as such. There's no repeating parts. It's everybody's kind of like just
it's an emotional language
playing
they
off
use.
each other.
Yeah.
Let's try it. So the devil's triad is considered evil because it's dissonant and it's something that has been restricted from culture because of control, basically.
It
yeah,
was at one
or
time.
stigma.
At one time.
Like in taboo, I'd guess.
And so because black music is groovy and isn't bound to those conventions, so too was it classified as devilish.
Very good parallel, I think.
And if you'd like to hear more about the devil's art,
Specifically, the science of sound itself, David Bowie, Marilyn Manson, the Satanic Panic, and the Illuvitar, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where a $5 donation will get you access to not just every single one of our extended shows, it'll also get you a 5x5 vinyl high-quality bonus sticker of our big-tittied cover art and access to our Discord server, which also is groovy and guaranteed to make your nose bleed and send you directly to heck. Thank you, everybody.
Eat carrots. Eat people. Shoot people.
No. Eat carrots, shoot lasers.
Eat carrots and shoot lasers.